Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premiere Networks on Saturday, July 6th, 2019. This is episode 1606. Enjoy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz. 8888. Ask Leo is my phone number. If you want to talk high-tech, 888-827-5536. Toll-free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you can still reach me. You just have to use Skype out or something like that to call the number. Should be toll-free. 8888 Ask Leo. The website, techguylabs.com. That's important because you don't have to write anything down. As you listen to the show, if you hear something you want to keep track of, we're going to write it down for you. James DeRuvo, even as I speak, is scribbling everything I say. Right, James? Right, James? He'll put it up at techguylabs.com. All the links, all the information, all the news stories, all the calls, all the questions, all the answers. techguylabs.com. That's all you have to remember. You can also use that as a forum to shout at me, which is good because shouting at the radio really doesn't do anything at all. So if you disagree, if you hear something and you say, wait a minute, that's not right, or I got a better idea, or I tried that once and this is what happened, you can just write that if you don't want to call in, because you can always call too, but you can also put it in the comments at the website. And there's no charge on the website. I know what you're thinking. Oh, Leo, he's pushing that website because he's going to make money on it. No, we do it. I really do the website because I don't want to have to write anything down. I don't want you to have. We're going to let James do it all. How about that? techguylabs.com. Scott Wilkinson coming up in just a little bit. He is our home theater guru. Johnny Jett, our travel guy. And most importantly this week, Dick DeBartolo, Mad's maddest writer, will be joining us in the third hour. And I've got to ask Dick what's going on. It looks like Mad Magazine, which was legendary in my life and for junior high school boys everywhere, is going out of business. Well, kind of going out of business. They're not going to make any new stuff. They're just going to republish old stuff. That is the end of an era. And, I think the internet can kind of take the blame for that, right? There's plenty of places you can get your satire. Plenty of places you can get irreverence. You don't need to go to the newsstand, if you even have a newsstand, and buy it. Have you noticed? I mean, I guess some of you probably still get newspapers, especially people of a certain age, people my age and older. I'm in my 60s, and a newspaper. We grew up with those, right? So we still kind of have that. I don't get a newspaper. I get the Sunday Times, which lays furled in my driveway till about Wednesday. And I don't bother bringing it in because it's right next to the recycling bin. I just toss it in there because I get it digitally, right? And I can just read the digital version of that. I don't get any magazines anymore. In fact, it used to be if you were into technology, you'd have to get all the, Computer Shopper and PC Magazine and PC World and Mac World, Mac User, all those. They're all gone. PC Shopper Computer Shopper magazine was so big. First of all, it was a tabloid size, so it was big already, tall and wide. And then it was as thick as a phone book. It was like getting 2 phone books delivered to your home every month or every 2 weeks. I think they got to every 2 weeks at one point. And what was it filled with? Not editorial content. Well, a little bit. Mostly it was filled with ads. That's how this was in the heyday of the PC era. And of course, couple of things happened. The internet happened, so you can get all the content online now and not have to pay for it, but that's a story for another time. It's one of the reasons these magazines aren't doing so well. And the ads, same thing. You find anything you need online. My wife and I went furniture shopping yesterday, and I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but here in California, when you go shopping to a brick and mortar, anything but a grocery store, people still kind of have to go to the grocery store. But anything other than a grocery store, it feels kind of broken down. You been to the mall lately? They're kind of falling apart. Malls are closing all over the world because people are shopping online. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you shop online? So that's kind of the changing times, and I guess Mad Magazine just the latest casualty. I actually started. I'm a little worried because Amazon's so dominant in online. I put a bookmark on my browser for Walmart, and because Walmart also does online shopping. They're going to lose $1 billion this year in online shopping, but they do it. And I'm thinking, maybe we ought to have, it'd be nice to have at least 2 companies you could buy stuff from. Otherwise, it's like a company store, right? It's like Tennessee Ernie Ford. Oh, my soul to the company store. If the only place you can shop is Amazon, well, there's nothing keeping prices down, no competition. So I thought, I should buy some stuff from Walmart just to spread my dollars out a little bit. Jony Ive, the legendary designer, Sir Jony Ive, the legendary designer for Apple Computer. He started at Apple back in the 90s, right? Because his first design was something called the eMate. I think that was even before Steve came back. It was a Newton for school. Steve came back, and suddenly there was this Lennon-McCartney relationship, this partnership between these two cats who knew how to make a product. And for a couple of decades, man, they had a run. First, of course, Johnny does the Bondi Blue iMac. That's right, when Steve came back. That was 1998. 2001, he does the iPod, revolutionizes portable music. It's kind of funny because, what was that, 18 years ago? Even then, the Walkman was already 22 years old. The Walkman celebrated its 40th birthday today, the first portable music player. Remember that? You'd put a cassette in it? And if you jiggled it, the cassette would go, the music would get, remember that? iPod 2001. Then, of course, Johnny and Steve's greatest creation, I think there's no doubt about it, in 2007, 22 years ago, the iPhone, not 22. So my math's bad, isn't it? 2007 would be 12 years ago. The iPhone. And then the iPad in 2010. Then it started kind of going downhill. The Apple Watch, that was a Jony Ive. The story goes, this practically killed him. It was kind of the beginning of the end for Johnny. The Apple Watch was so hard because there's such a little screen, right, to make that usable. And of course, that's when Apple, trying to keep him interested, started paying him a lot of money and made him in charge. They said, Johnny, you're not only in charge of industrial design of our hardware, you're in charge of everything. Human interface design, everything, the software, everything. Oh, thank you very much. I'm a knight now. All right, here's another $100 million. Oh, thank you very much. Then he did the AirPods. Okay, maybe not the greatest design ever. His crowning achievement, his final achievement at Apple was Apple Park, the spaceship campus, the giant round circle building that he and Steve, that was also Steve's last thing. Steve was very, very ill when he broke the ground for Apple Park and never did see it completed. Jony Ive's leaving. And no sooner does he hit the door at Apple than they say, hey, I think we're going to do a new keyboard. So as great as Johnny is, and what a great designer, I think without his John Lennon, he's the Paul McCartney. He's not quite the designer he was. And then, of course, his quest for thinner and thinner and thinner laptops gave us a keyboard on the MacBook Pros that was dysfunctional, to be kind. Just not a good keyboard. Hard to use, and it broke a lot, and was very expensive to repair. Almost the next week after Jony Ive announces his departure, within days, on the 4th of July, Ming-Chi Kuo, who writes about Apple in Taiwan, he kind of keeps an eye on the supply chain, says that Apple will roll out a new keyboard design. They're going to dump the butterfly key and go to scissor switches, which everybody's been using forever, including Apple. starting with the 2019 MacBook Air later this year. Hey, if they do that, I might even buy one. I actually swore off Apple laptops because of that horrible keyboard. Horrible keyboard. I can't do it. Can't bring myself to use it. All right, we're going to take a little break here because we got to do that, and then we'll come back, take your calls. Again, the number 8888 Ask Leo, 888-827-5536. Give me a ring. Calm. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's go to the phones right after this. Hello, Kim Schaffer. Leo to Kim.
Probably about your
Kimmy, don't take no Schaffer.
toadstools.
Oh, I was talking about my Harry Potter game. Did you play that game?
No.
It's the new Pokemon Go, you
Nope.
know.
Not
All
gonna
the
do it.
kids are doing it.
Nope.
Oh, yeah, come on, you
Nope.
are. You know you want to.
Nope.
Peer pressure.
Staying away.
Peer pressure. Did you read Mad Magazine as a girl?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it might be just middle school boys.
Yeah, I think it's more of a boy thing.
I will be talking to Dick about this because Dick DeBartolo, who's our Gizwiz later in the show, is also has been a writer, has been in every issue of Mad Magazine.
Is it going away? Did I hear that?
Yeah.
I saw.
I think this is very sad.
Yeah.
This was my entire adolescence. And if it weren't for Mad Magazine, I don't think dad jokes would be around. So, because all the dads read Mad in the
Dad
day.
jokes.
In the day.
Dad jokes are great.
Yeah. Dad, from Mad to Dad. So, you've been answering the phone.
I have.
As is your wont. Have you come up with somebody I should talk to today?
Sure. Martin in Santa Barbara. I wonder if he felt the earthquake.
Oh.
I don't know. Did Big Pee-wee feel the earthquake?
Big Pee-wee was, what did you feel the earthquake, Damien? He said, I sure did. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, my son is in LA right now. He felt it.
I heard people
texted
in
him.
Tracy and Modesto
Well,
and
it's because it was in
Sacramento
Kern County. It
felt
was
it
Ridgecrest.
too.
I hope everybody's okay.
Oh,
Everybody
me
in our
too.
listening audience. I hope you're all right and survived. That's a strong earthquake.
That's 7.1's huge.
Our the last earthquake in San Francisco, the Loma Prieta quake in '89, was only 6.9. 7.1's a lot stronger.
Yes, it is.
Although the great San Francisco quake of 1906, I think they estimate that was about 7.4.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, that one did a lot.
There's
of
some
damage.
quake lore for you.
There you go.
You know it's a logarithmic scale, right? Let me talk to Martin. Thank you, Kim. Hi, Martin. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, Martin, in Santa Barbara?
Yes, I did feel the earthquake. I went running out into my backyard.
Isn't it funny how I don't know about you, but we're prepared for this in California. We do all the earthquake safety stuff, but they go sometimes it's years between earthquakes. Last earthquake, I'm supposed to be all prepared and everything. It's the middle of the night. I jump out of bed. I basically just run around in circles going, earthquake, earthquake, earthquake. Didn't do any of the things you're supposed to do. Although they keep changing the rules. I thought you were supposed to get under a door. Now I hear you're not.
That's correct.
Yeah. I guess I better look up the rules before we get another one. What can I do for you, Martin?
Well, I got an email from Microsoft saying that at the end of the year they're going to stop providing backup for Windows 7.
Yep.
And that's what I've got, and I want to know what that's going to mean.
It's so funny, Martin. I just wrote an article about this, a little column about this, because January 14th, all operating systems do come to the end of life. At some point, the company just says, okay, well, it's time to get a new version of Windows. And it's been more than 10 years for Windows 7. So it's the normal end of life. What that means is, and it's really a big deal. You may remember this happened to Windows XP a little while ago, and then Windows Vista a little while after that. That means they're not going to send out updates, including security patches. That is the big deal. Because by now, Windows 7, it's been around long enough. It's pretty well patched. It's pretty secure. It's pretty reliable, right? You like it, obviously. You're still using it.
Yeah.
It really was, I think, the best version of Windows ever. But at some point, they just say, yeah, well, you should upgrade. So here's your choice. You can keep using it. Nothing's going to stop working. But it will become increasingly less safe to use it on the internet, right, as time goes by. And eventually, somebody's going to find a bad flaw in Windows 7 that Microsoft's not going to patch. And then you really, you'll be running a risk just going out on the internet. You don't even have to go to a bad site, just by sitting on the internet. So that's problem number one. The other problem is that browsers and other software will stop working after a while. This happened with XP. We know because it happened with XP. Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, they all stopped updating it later than Microsoft, but eventually stopped updating. So that means you won't be using an up-to-date browser, which means websites will start kind of not working as well. So you have a couple of choices. You can take that machine, if you like your machine and it's got, it's fast and stuff, you could upgrade to Windows 10. Did you ever upgrade to Windows 10 when they were offering it for free a couple of years ago?
Yes, I did. My daughter did the upgrade for me, and I put up with it for a week or two, and I didn't like it at all.
I don't like it. Well, that's really good news, actually, because so at the time they let you roll back. So you roll back to Windows 7. But you can now, for free, upgrade to Windows 10, and that's probably the right thing to do at this point.
Okay, and just learn to live with it, huh?
Yeah, it's, I think you'll find it's pretty close to Windows 7. The menu looks different and stuff, but you can make that look more like Windows 7. You could turn off Cortana, the voice assistant. I never use that. You can make it be more and more like Windows 7. There's a few other things, but it is more up to date. It's probably more secure, and going forward, it definitely will be more secure. And the other thing about Windows 10 that I like is that Microsoft says this is the last version of Windows. They're not going to do a Windows 11. They're not going to make you go through this again. They're just, once you install Windows 10, and you can install it on top of your Windows 7, you'll just get updates.
All right.
And the updates will keep coming, and they'll never turn them off. Well, never in computer years, whatever that is.
Right.
But it's unlike previous versions of Windows. Microsoft has decided, quite rightly, there's no point in spending a lot of energy on Windows anymore. So they're just gonna say, this is it. You don't have to buy Windows anymore. You've done your time. If you never did the Windows 10 upgrade, then you could buy it. It's $139. I don't know if that's a great idea, but you could do that. You could go out and get a new computer, which would come with Windows 10. So if you have a Windows 7 computer is feeling old and slow, maybe a new computer, spruce things up. And then there's always Linux. There's always the free operating system. If you have some technical chops, you could put that on your machine. But since you did 10, I'd say just upgrade. Yeah, it's kind of, you're lucky your daughter did that, because you got an extra 5 years out of Windows 7, and now you can go to 10. I think you won't mind it. I think you'll be. You're stuck with it. You don't have a choice.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Martin.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Take care. It's funny. I just wrote a column on that. What I didn't go into, but it is the case, according to Paul Thurrott, that if you have a Windows 7 serial number, you may be able to upgrade to Windows 10 for free still, even if you didn't take advantage of the free offer. The problem with that is that you're going to want to back up all your data in case it doesn't work and all that stuff. Home Theater Geek, contributor at techhive.com, Scott Wilkinson, joins us now to talk home theater. And I've just learned a disturbing detail. So you were doing reviews of sound bars.
I just finished a review of the LG SL8YG soundbar, which has Dolby Atmos. So it's got up-firing speakers as well as front-firing speakers.
Yeah.
So the Atmos channels go up to the ceiling and reflect and come back down. I was concerned, I was bummed actually, that this soundbar, which list price is $800, comes with a subwoofer. And it's called a 3.1.2 soundbar, so it's got 2 overhead channels for Atmos. But it only has one HDMI input. And I was concerned. I said, wait a second, what if you have more than one HDMI source device, which many, many people do. You might have a...
Well, wait a minute. Hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Does it have an HDMI out that then goes to the TV?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So the
Absolutely.
soundbar wants you to pass through it to the TV.
Correct.
Oh, well, I've never done it that way. I've always had an AV receiver, but if you didn't, you could. The TV has multiple inputs, HDMI inputs, so you put your stuff into your TV, and then the TV has optical out, and all sound bars I've ever seen come with optical in.
And this one
that makes sense because that's your TV first, and then it sends the extra audio out to the sound bar, and the TV, even the TV remotes are all set up to like do it that way.
That's correct. However, the optical output from the TV is limited. It cannot, for example, send Dolby Atmos.
What?
A Dolby Atmos bitstream to the soundbar. No, it can't.
What?
The only thing that'll carry a Dolby Atmos bitstream is HDMI. So, if you want to have a Dolby Atmos signal, you have to send it from the source to the soundbar via HDMI, and then from the soundbar to the TV via HDMI. Now, you could do it.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. That seems so. I've recommended it. I've always said it here. Now, does the Dolby 5.1 come through the?
Yes.
Oh,
yes, Dolby
so
Digital.
it's just this Upfire Atmos stuff that doesn't.
It's just Atmos and other non-compressed, non-lossy compressed stuff.
So
like,
is it that the optical bitstream doesn't have enough bandwidth to pass
Correct.
the Atmos? Oh.
Yep.
Who knew?
Yep.
Because it's just bits. I know it's just bits. It's still digital.
That's
so
correct.
I thought, well, it's digital. HDMI is digital. I thought the optical would have the same carrying capacity.
It's a matter of bandwidth.
Well, that stinks.
It does.
Not that I need
Now,
Atmos, but that still stinks.
If you have an Atmos soundbar, don't you want to take advantage of it?
Yeah, but I don't. But I do have a 5.1 sound bar. I have one of those Sonos soundbars. So
that'll work.
That does work.
Yes. Now here's another solution. As you say, a lot of people, when they have a sound bar, they connect their source devices to the TV, which has multiple HDMI inputs, and then an optical to the sound bar. But if you want a Dolby Atmos, say, to go to the sound bar, you could connect an HDMI cable from one of the TV's inputs if the TV supports something called audio return channel, or ARC.
Right.
You connect one of those inputs from the TV that supports that, to the soundbar's HDMI output, which is weird.
Oh, you can't put it on the input?
No, it goes to the output. so it's
but it will work.
Intuitive, but
it will
work.
Because the HDMI cable can handle as much data as Atmos needs.
As Atmos needs, correct.
Okay. And even if I have other inputs on the TV, the ARC channel will return whatever audio it's playing back down.
Presumably so.
Into the input, output of the soundbar. And soundbar manufacturers, aware of this conundrum, obviously will say, oh, I see Atmos audio coming in here. I guess I better play that.
Correct.
We need to upgrade our optical bandwidth. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I that's a very well-established format.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
It's pretty old. I mean, somebody's in the chat room said it goes back to CD days.
Yeah, it's true.
Right.
It's true.
So they thought, well, who would ever need more data than that?
My argument is this. The soundbar, if you're using a soundbar, you're not using an AV receiver if you're going to use the soundbar. But the soundbar is serving more or less the same function. And so therefore, because an AV receiver is actually your HDMI switcher if you have one. So the soundbar should be one too. So at least at these high prices, you should have multiple HDMI inputs to your soundbar. That makes so much more sense.
Well, maybe. The only thing that doesn't make sense is you're going from the TV to the output on the soundbar. But the output on the TV to the output on the soundbar. But
you're going from an input on a TV to the output on the soundbar.
It seems like the wrong direction.
It's sending data in the wrong direction.
But let me ask you. Is there any downside to that besides the weird logic of it?
Well, it occupies one HDMI input of your TV that you can't use for an input. Because you're using it as an output.
And do all TVs have ARC?
No, only most modern ones do. But what about legacy TVs? They don't. So that doesn't work if you have a TV that's older than a few years old.
See, I never liked Atmos.
I love it. I think it's
don't
great.
want any up-firing speakers anyway.
Oh no, it's great. Now this LG.
So if you want to, so that's why maybe Atmos soundbar. Maybe it's not going to be the best Atmos anyway. If you care that much, get a Atmos system with up-firing speakers and right.
I agree with that. That's going to be a better solution, no question about it. But what if you have a space limitation?
Yeah.
Or a spousal acceptance factor limitation.
Then you shouldn't have upward firing speakers in the first place.
Well, even a separate Atmos system, many of them have up firing speakers.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question for you. Did you look at the LG page for that soundbar?
Yes.
On the website? Did you notice anything odd about it? They have it hanging under the TV with the upward firing speakers pointed at you.
What?
Go look at the website.
I will.
They got some photographer who obviously didn't know how it worked.
Oh, man.
And so it's actually misleading because it makes it look like you could hang it that way under the TV. And obviously, if the Atmos stuff is firing at you, the speakers that are supposed to fire at you are firing at the floor.
Yeah. No, that's very bad.
Yeah. So let's just make this clear to anybody. If you want to use an Dolby Atmos sound bar with those upward firing speakers, you could use it in a 5.1 mode with the optical cable. But if you want to get full Atmos, you have to have an HDMI. Either you have a receiver, in which case you don't have to worry about it. You have an AV receiver,
right? And
you pass it. I didn't realize that you pass it through the soundbar to the TV. That's weird. Or if you don't have an AV receiver and you have you have an ARC channel on your TV, HDMI that's labeled ARC, audio return channel, and you have enough inputs, you could plug everything into your TV and have the output of the ARC HDMI going into. Actually, it's the input of the ARC going
ARC
into the output of the soundbar, which makes no sense but works.
Yes, correct. Better if manufacturers would put multiple HDMI inputs on their Atmos soundbars, at least.
Yeah, but this works. And you don't have any sync issues or anything like that?
Generally not.
Scott Wilkinson, he's a contributor at techhive.com. He joins us every week to explain the wild and wacky world of AV. Wow. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this.
Let's see. Mike Heiss is in the chat room. Hey, Mike. Emphasis on can, yes. And this whole thing about ARC, yes, it's whatever the TV supports. It may not send Dolby Atmos back out of ARC. That is a question. I did find out recently that more TVs than I thought can send 5.1 via optical. In the olden days, optical output from a TV, as often as not, maybe more often than not, only sent 2-channel. So it downmixed 5.1 to 2-channel and sent that out. Nowadays, according to artings.com, which has a great table on this, I think virtually all of the TVs they've reviewed in the last year or so. Let me see. Here it is. Yeah, I guess it was last year, and 5.1 Dolby Digital via ARC and via optical as well. All of them can send 5.1, but not all of them can send 5.1 Dolby Digital. Not all of them can send DTS 5.1 via optical, but most of them can. And here, looking in fact at Dolby Atmos in True HD via eARC. Which is enhanced ARC. Most of them cannot, even then. So that's unfortunate. I should have mentioned that. Sorry that I didn't. Marsworm, I have not tried Lowcast yet. I heard about that on a podcast I was on last week, and I haven't tried it yet, so I'm going to have to try that. Yes, Twisted Mister, that's exactly right. 5.1 over optical will never be high res. That is lossless or LPCM due to the limitation of Toslink transceiver, not enough bandwidth, precisely. Let's see. Yes, I got yes, Loquacious. I finally got new equipment from Twit. I have the Focusrite Scarlet Solo, I believe it's called. Scarlet Solo, yes. Which seems to have solved my delay problem, at least to some extent. Lip sync issue. Doesn't look like it's 100%. In fact, it looks definitely not like it's 100%, but it's a heck of a lot better than it used to be. So there is that. Mike Wund says Dolby Atmos is a lossless compression. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It can actually also be Dolby Digital Plus, which is a lossy compression, which takes less bandwidth, but more than Dolby Digital, regular Dolby Digital. Thank you, Loquacious. I'm glad that's close enough. Looks perfect on the YouTube stream. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Mike High says, not 100%, but not as bad as before. Yeah, that's a good thing. So I've only got about 30 seconds left, but I'm happy to stick around for the top of the hour. Tim Elliott, will soundbar replace your home stereo for music? Not as good. Better than listening on something super cheap, but not as good as real home speakers, that's for sure.
Scott, I'll talk again in 10 minutes.
You bet.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you, sir. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. Back to the phones we go here. Let's see. Line 4. We're Doug in Encinitas, California. Hello, Doug.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
My goodness, Doug. Are you a
solution there that on that HDMI thing?
Yeah.
I've got. I was going to need one because I'm using an LG 3D TV and it only has a couple of inputs, so I got a splitter. And I went to BB store. I won't mention them.
You can mention Best Buy. Is that what your BB stands for? Best Buy. Yes.
Anyway, yeah, something like that. Anyway, it was like $30 or something.
Yeah, that's pretty good for a splitter.
I looked on AliExpress.
Yeah.
And they have an HDMI 4K Ultra HD splitter, and it has little lights on it and all that. So I got it, and $4.
How much?
$4 and free shipping.
That's because you're buying it direct from China.
Yeah.
Price is right, baby.
It works great. It works. It does everything I need it to do.
There you go. So, what do you think, Scott? Get a splitter.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's good for 4K, so it should be good for Atmos. I don't see why not.
Would it work for Atmos?
Presumably.
Yeah.
Presumably. I mean, I was thinking it would be better if you.
Bar.
Yeah, there you go. I was thinking it would be better to get an HDMI switcher for a soundbar, so that you can.
So, what's the difference between a switcher and a splitter?
A switcher takes multiple inputs and lets you select which one goes to the output.
And so does this.
So you got a switcher for $4.
That's pretty damn good, as long as it works.
You're brave to buy stuff, though, on Alibaba.
It's pretty.
Doug, when you go on Alibaba, and you ever look at the shipping?
No, AliExpress.
AliExpress, but you ever look at the shipping? It's the same as Alibaba. You ever look at the shipping, and it'll say, you'll get this in 90 days. And then you get it in a few days. I think they like to underpromise and overdeliver.
There you go.
Yeah, I got it about 7 days.
Yeah, they don't. Because it's shipping from China and they don't know what the customs situation, the situation will be. They literally, if you look at the shipping times on AliExpress, they're crazy, and that may discourage people. But almost always it comes faster.
Yeah. But looking at it, it says HDMI switch 3-to-1, 4K Ultra HD, and then it has a little light, tells you which is selected, and then it's got input 1, 2, and 3. And whichever one is currently used is what it switches to. You don't have to push buttons. There is one with a remote, and I think that costs another $1 or something. You don't need it.
Yeah, it's because it's made with slave labor, you understand.
I don't care.
Doug, I love you.
Does it automatically switch depending on which input is active? Is that how it works?
Correct.
That's what they call an active switcher, right?
So I have it for my Blu-ray, my 3D Blu-ray player, And I got so many things hooked up here.
I've always had trouble with active switchers not noticing that I changed, but maybe they've gotten better.
This one does.
Yeah, now that you went... I never spent the big bucks like you, $4. I always went for the $1 one. Maybe I should have splurged.
No, HDMI switcher is the thing.
To it too, and it works. So
yeah, Doug, thank you for the update.
Stream Plus, the one that has the
I appreciate it, Doug. Have you been getting a lot of work ever since you were on the show a couple of weeks ago?
None.
None.
Nothing.
Yep, the power of the Tech Guy show again at work. It's great.
I'm holding at about 82 listeners. I've got 13 countries.
Would you please tell us the website?
Heading to 3,200 listens.
He does a great Good News podcast. Tell us how to listen to the Good News podcast.
Well, it's offbeat news.
Oh, I thought it was only good news. It's offbeat news.
Yeah, it's good news. Yeah, I don't put anything on there. You won't hear any politicians or anything.
No bad news. But it's offbeat good news.
Yeah, it's just
Read in this beautiful stentorian dulcet tones.
Headline Minute with DW, that's it.
How do I find it? Where can I find it?
Everywhere.
Let's get him more than 82 listeners. Headline Minute with DW.
Yeah.
All right. Doug, thank you.
I change it every day. It's daily. And I did a special on 4th of July where I portrayed Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, wow. I'd love to hear that.
Views on that. People said it sounded like Abraham Lincoln as if they knew,
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln, famous for a great voice. No, he sounded whiny and high-pitched, right?
Yeah, I do voices, so I was able to.
Let's hear your Abe Lincoln.
No.
Hey, Doug, always a pleasure. You got to download the podcast. That's why. Good news. What is it again?
Headline Minute.
Headline Minute.
With DW.
With DW. On podcast applications everywhere. Subscribe today. And while you're at it, subscribe to the Tech Guy podcast too. Yeah. I'll try to talk like Doug does.
Try that switcher.
I will.
It's good.
Thank you, Doug.
There's a million of them there. You've got to get the right one. It's printed in gold on the front of it.
It's printed in gold. That means it's really worth those $4.
Got a big 4K
The
on
thing I love about Doug, he's on like the $1 Alibaba phone, right? And he still sounds like the voice of God.
Actually, this is the $14 VTech.
Okay, 14. There you go.
Out of Walmart through Magic Jack.
On a Magic Jack, too. Wow. Very
I've been
nice.
on Magic Jack many years.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's a voice over internet. Thank you, DW.
Thank you.
Have a good one. I notice when I talk to him, my voice, I try to. and thank you, Scott.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yes, it's been great talking to you. Jose, Modesto, California. Hello, Jose.
Hello. I have a question about Adobe products and its subscription method. I just wanted to know if it's really needed to pay the subscription.
Yeah, that's how Adobe wants to do it, and I don't like it one cotton picking bit. But they don't sell the traditional boxed versions of their software. You have to pay the monthly fee.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's very. This is where everybody wants to go at some point, is to a subscription. Even Microsoft, you notice with their Office, they still sell Office outright, but it's hundreds of dollars. Or you could pay a mere $9 a month, and get it cheaper, and that way they get paid every month. So,
okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. Well, let me see. Let me look here, because unless I'm wrong, no, maybe. Take it back. Looks like they do sell what they call perpetual licenses. So you can get Photoshop. Oh no, annual plan. Nope, annual plan. Nope. I mean, you can pay $239 and have it for a year, but you're going to have to pay again next year if you want to keep using it. Wow. I thought it bothers me. I agree with you. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Are you on you're a photographer? Is that what you use it for?
Yes.
There's a company called Skylum, Skylum, that makes, I think, very good software for photos. They have Luminar, which is their equivalent of Adobe Lightroom. They have Aurora, which is an HDR program. And they sell perpetual licenses for like $60. It's much less expensive. So, and I think it's every bit as good. So I would take a look at those. Let me just, I'm looking. Yeah, they do have perpetual licenses for some products. Let me look and see which products create. Yeah, no, no. They want you to subscribe. Adobe wants you to subscribe. Go to Skylum, SKYLUM.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, I don't see any. Cold Fusion, Flash Builder, Photoshop Elements. Actually, I should have mentioned the Elements. You can do the Elements perpetual subscription. So actually, I should have mentioned that. That's the other way to go, Jose. If you don't need the professional versions, they always want to subscribe on the professional versions. But Adobe Photoshop Elements and Premiere Elements, they're under $100, and they're actually almost every bit of this of the same software. So that's the other way to go. Yeah.
And I'm just curious, what happens if nobody for example, nobody pays the prescription? Will the Photoshop, Premiere, whatever,
it stops working if you don't pay. So the problem is the professionals who need and want Photoshop and Lightroom, they're just going to pay for it. They're going to do the subscription, and that Adobe knows that. But that's why there are companies like Skylum coming along offering one-shot pricing, because and there's also Affinity Photo, which is very good. On the iPad, I use Pixelmator Photo, which is $5 right now, permanent, one time only. Now, what other companies are doing, though, which is a little sneaky, Skylum does this too, is they'll have, so right now it's Luminar 2019. Actually, it's Luminar 3. They might do a Luminar 4 next year and say, hey, for only $40, you can upgrade. So in a way, they're kind of doing that too. Everybody wants to do that because software is a continual cost. But I'm mad at Adobe. A lot of photographers are mad at Adobe because this isn't a great solution. All right, back we go to the man of the hour, Mr. Scott Wilkinson. Scott?
Thank you so very much. I'm glad we cleared up that bit about what he got was a switcher, because the difference is a switcher takes multiple ins. It lets you select to one out. A splitter takes one in and splits it to multiple outputs, so you can feed a bunch of different displays. And what he got, and the other solution that we didn't get the chance to talk about on the air, was an HDMI switcher, which complicates the operation of the system, but does provide what I want. I also mentioned in my review of the LG that there aren't many even high-end soundbars that have multiple HDMI inputs, but there are a few. One of which is, well, let's see, as I recall, it was, well, the one I'm remembering is the Nakamichi Shockwave. Believe it or not, it's SHOCKWAF, as in Frank E. Shockwave Pro SSE, which is a 7.1.4 soundbar. It has speakers in the back, as well as up-firing and front-firing speakers in the front, and a subwoofer, wireless subwoofer. I believe it's $800 or $900, and the LG is $800, and it's got like 3 or 4 HDMI inputs, so I like that. Maverick 56 is asking, don't you think movie theater sound levels are way too loud? Well, yes, I do. We talk about it all the time about taking care of our hearing, but movie theaters go overboard with the sound. I wonder how high the decibels are in superhero movies. Well, I've measured quite a few. And movie theaters, at least the Dolby Cinemas that I've mostly measured in, they stick to the prescribed level pretty carefully. Now, some of them do go over. The prescribed level in a movie is an average of 85 dBA. Now, that's also the same as the OSHA standard in a workplace. Average of 85 dBA over 8 hours. Now, a movie's 2 hours, roughly. Avengers Endgame was 3, but still. I still think that's too high. I find that to be uncomfortably high. And an average of 85 means that the peaks, the explosions and so on like that, those can get up into the 110, 120 region. Now, they're short-lived. They don't last very long. And really, when we're talking about hearing damage, we're talking about exposure. And that is a cumulative effect over the length of time that you're exposed to the sound. So again, I've measured most times it's right at 85. They are just right there in the average over the whole movie. I have measured as high as 89, even 90, and that's really, really loud. But they do, for the most part, they try to keep within the legal limit or the prescribed limit. But it's still way too loud in my opinion. It should be lower than that, but it's not, and there's probably nothing anybody can do about it. Speaking of volume, I meant to tell Leo that next week, next Saturday, I will have returned from tomorrow. In fact, I'm flying to Vegas to attend the Aerosmith residency at the Park MGM. So Aerosmith has a long gig there now, like many artists have done. Theirs is called Deuces Are Wild, and they're undoubtedly going to play all their hits and all that stuff. The interesting thing about this concert, and the reason that I'm going, is that they offer a special experience for VIPs. I don't know how many. I'll find out when I'm there, but I'm going to be in that section. Everybody in that section gets a pair of in-ear monitors from a company called One More. And you listen to the concert with in-ear monitors, and you can control your own volume. And I've heard you can switch between the main mix, I guess the front of house mix, the main PA mix, or Steven Tyler's monitor mix. You can listen to what Steven Tyler is listening to as he's performing. And again, you can control your own volume, which I think is brilliant. So the question for me really is, even with a good seal in your in-ear monitors, and believe me, I'm going to take my own ear tips to make sure I get a good seal, how much sound is leaking in from the outside? And the other question, the related question is how loud is it out in the plebe section, and not the non-VIP section, where they're just listening to house PA system? I'm going to take some time and take my measuring equipment out into the house. I'm told I can do that, and measure the sound levels in the main house and see where they're at. But Aerosmith, I mean, they've got to be really loud. I mean, it's a loud rock band. And I can't imagine them saying, oh, well, in our Vegas residency, we'll turn it down. I sort of don't think that they're going to do that. So this is going to be very interesting, and I'm going to report about it next Saturday on the show here, because I don't think I've ever heard of a concert where they gave you a pair of in-ear monitors to listen to the concert on. Not only that, the VIP section is like within feet of the band. I've seen photos of fan members, people in the VIP section, just feet away from Steven Tyler. So it's going to be a very interesting experience. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm also going to write it up on Tech Hive, so you'll be able to read about it there too. And that'll be posted before next Saturday. So should be very interesting. Web 9554, I've only got a minute. From what little I know of sound, dB, decibels, always measured against a baseline. What's the baseline sound that it's compared to, if that makes sense? It does make sense. And in most cases, you are exactly correct. decibels are nothing more than a comparison of two values. So it's almost always relative. Now, in the case of decibels, dB SPL, sound pressure level, that which we are concerned about in terms of hearing safety, is measured against a level that has been determined to be basically the threshold of what humans can hear. And that's after a wide sampling of a bunch of people. How quiet can it get before you can't hear it anymore? And then that average is what's called 0 dB SPL. And then it goes up from there. And so when you get to 120, you get to the threshold, 130, you get to the threshold of pain.
All right,
So
Scott,
we'll
enjoy the threshold of pain. I'll see you next week. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers and the internet and home theater and digital photography and smartphones and smartwatches, all that geek stuff. That's the Geek Show. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number, 888-827-5536. It's toll-free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada, 8888 Ask Leo. Website is techguylabs.com. We have some nice people in the studio, some honeymooners. That's a little bit weird, but Stevie, you knew Isaac was a geek when you married him. Stevie Lee and Isaac are here from Brisbane in Australia on their honeymoon. And then Isaac said that we're here for 3.5 weeks. This is the only thing I wanted to do. So Stevie Lee gets the rest of the 3.5 weeks. That's great. Also, Frederico visiting from Los Angeles. Great to have you all. Time to get back to the phones, though. We got lots of calls. Charlie in San Diego's next. Hi, Charlie.
Hey, Leo. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Okay. I have a little problem with my Surface Pro 6. I became a seeker looking for version 1903.
Yes.
And I applied it. I downloaded it from Microsoft only.
Yes.
Applied it, and now all I get is a black screen with the Windows logo and the spinning circles. Or spinning dot. And
Ironically,
will not reboot.
First of all, you shouldn't have to be a seeker because you have a Microsoft product. You'd think they'd be the first to get the update. 1903 is the latest version of Windows. Microsoft has kind of foolishly, I think, decided to release updates to Windows 10. Remember I was saying earlier in the show that Windows 10 is the last version of Windows. They're just going to stick with 10, and every twice a year they're going to do feature updates, and of course monthly they'll do bug updates and security fixes. And 1903 is the current feature update scheduled for March 2019. Get it? 1903, which means it came out in May, and here we are in July. He says he's a seeker, and that's the term Microsoft uses when you go out and look for updates. They say, oh, well, you sought it, you must have wanted it, so we're going to give it to you. Although they are saying 1903 should come to everybody by now.
It did the check, and it said your machine is capable.
Oh, yeah, you're on a Surface. You're on a Microsoft product. That's the first thing they test with. So
yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't get it a little earlier. I also, it's unfortunate. As far as I know, there are very few problems with 1903, but it sounds like you're the one, and I shouldn't laugh.
I Googled to see how to get the machine to restart. And they kept talking about turn it on and off 3 times, hold the Windows R key, but none of that seems.
Yeah, those are all old. Well, Windows R should work. It did not do that. That's the recovery mode. So you're getting a black screen?
Black screen with the Windows logo, and underneath it, it's got this little spinning.
And it just spins and spins and spins.
It's been spinning for 12 hours.
Yeah, that's probably enough time to install. So
that's what I thought.
It sounds like it's stuck.
So is there a way to get it to restart?
How important is the data on your machine?
Totally unimportant. That's just
good news. Then this is an easy thing to fix. You'll want to go to another machine and download, Microsoft calls it the Windows Media Creation Tool. And it will actually put Windows 10 1903 on a USB drive. And then you'll just boot to that. Did you get your Surface doesn't have a lot of ports, right? I have the Surface Go. I can't remember what the Surface Pro has.
It's got a USB.
It does? Okay. So you can boot. Yeah. You might have to tell it to boot to the USB drive. Probably not. But if it doesn't boot, if it continues to boot to the hard drive, you'll have to say no, boot to the USB drive, and then just reinstall Windows. This isn't a bad thing to do if you don't have anything important.
There's nothing on it.
Yeah, there will be an option during the media installation to say don't touch my data, and so you may even be able to fix it without having any changes at all. But that's why I ask, because there's always the risk you might lose data. So you probably won't lose any data.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only other machine I have is a Mac. I can get Windows created on that.
Yes, you can, and it will explain how to make the bootable USB key. That's a good thing to have anyway. Everybody who has a computer should have recovery media on a USB stick so that you can fix it if something like this happens. And I should say that this is not typical. 1903 has been very reliable, but I've always likened this kind of big upgrade to an operating system to the equivalent of, how the magicians will pull the tablecloth off from under all the china and the glasses and everything without upsetting any of that stuff. That you're taking the tablecloth out and then putting in a new tablecloth in, and sometimes china breaks. That's a big deal to upgrade an operating system significantly while it's running. And if most of the time it works, this time apparently it didn't. It should work absolutely with your Surface Pro. That's absolutely going to work.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give it a try.
Okay, sorry this happened. Yeah. I think honestly that I see no reason to upgrade to 1903 except that this is part of the deal with Windows 10. Unless you're a business, you're kind of required to upgrade. It's kind of part of the deal. You can put it off for a month, but eventually you have to upgrade. I'd put it off as long as you can on these big upgrades. You want to do the monthly bug fixes, the Patch Tuesday updates. You want to do those right away because they're in effect an announcement to bad guys. Hey, we've got a problem. Houston, we got a problem. And the bad guys are saying, well, let's see what that is. What can we attack? But the feature update, these twice yearly feature updates, the last one was 1809, September 2018. This was 1903. There will apparently be 1909 or something like it. They're actually calling it now because they realized they never come out in the month that they thought they would. So they're now calling it 19H2 for the year 2019, second half. And have already been testing the first half of 2020. And the really good news is Microsoft has said, this next one is not going to have a lot of new features. We're just going to try to make everything work better. Thank you. A lot of us have said you don't need to do 2 big updates a year. Maybe one, Microsoft, because they've had a lot of problems. Maybe just do one and really make sure it works for everybody before you release it. And just a little thought, if you're out there looking for a computer on this fine weekend, Windows is probably not the computer you're looking for, to be honest. I think if you have an IT department, Windows is a great choice. If you're a gamer, you need Windows, okay. If your program that you want to use needs Windows, okay, it won't run anywhere else. But honestly, real people shouldn't be running Windows. That's for people with an IT department. I'm increasingly of this opinion. There is but one true operating system in the world. Now, this is going to be controversial, and I know people are going to be upset, and they're going to email me and call me, but it's true. So you might as well just get over it. The one true operating system in the world is Unix. And there's really Unix and then there's one other operating system, Windows. Everything else is running on Unix or a flavor of Unix. Linux is a flavor of Unix. Android is a flavor of Unix. Chrome OS, the Chromebooks, running on Unix. They're running on Linux, but it's a flavor of Unix. Mac OS is a flavor of Unix. It's running on top of Unix. The only operating system that's not in this family is Windows, and it shows it. To be honest, it is. Operating systems are a very simple thing. They're not complicated. They shouldn't be complicated. Unix has been around since 1969. What's that, 50, 60 years? 60 years. And it's really well understood. And Microsoft did this crazy thing where they said, we could make money selling bits. Nobody had really done this before. We could make money selling bits. So let's do that. Make an operating system and sell it. It's never worked very well, ever, ever, ever. Just my opinion, but I think if you're going to get a new computer, it'd be worth looking at Chrome OS, unless you need a real general purpose operating system. Then look at Linux or look at Mac OS. I think it's time to say, and I think even Microsoft is acknowledging this, time to say goodbye to Windows. Yeah, it wasn't a good idea. It was kind of a mistake. We've all suffered enough. Thank you very much. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. We're going to get back to the phones, and we will talk right after this. We'll be back with more of our show in just a bit, but I just want to make a little plea to all of you who listen to this podcast. We put a lot of effort into it. It takes a team of hosts, producers, editors, engineers, and support staff to get our content out. We're free. We're ad-supported, but the easiest thing you can do to help support us in our efforts at Twit is subscribing. Subscribe to this podcast and any of the Twit podcasts you listen to regularly. You could do it in any of your podcast programs, or just go to twit.tv/subscribe, and we'll tell you how to do it. Thank you for your support. And now, on with the show. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. Line 3. Albert in Vegas. Did you feel the big shaker, Albert?
Let me take you off speaker. Hold on.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you there?
Yep. You sound exactly the same. What can I do for you?
You know how you're saying when you travel overseas, Europe and that, to get an overseas card?
Actually, that's not normally my recommendation. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, anyway, I was over there in May and couldn't get nothing. Bought me a SIM card over there for $25 prepaid, no big deal. And still couldn't get nothing. So I said, screw it, I'm just going to run off my T-Mobile plan.
Oh, God. Well, no, T-Mobile's fine because they don't charge you extra for overseas. That's actually my recommendation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did it. I had like 9 gigs and almost 300 minutes.
Yeah, it worked great, didn't it?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised not to get it going when I got it.
That's my recommendation, actually. So T-Mobile doesn't offer you full speed, but it's usable and maybe enough, especially since Wi-Fi is very common everywhere, your hotel and coffee shops. The other one that's good is Google Fi, which runs on the T-Mobile network when you're overseas, and that is full speed. So that's what I carry with me is a T-Mobile phone and a Google Fi phone when I travel overseas. You can pay nowadays. Most companies, AT&T, Verizon, will charge you roughly $10 a day for some limited amount of data. That adds up, but it's better than it used to be. And that's, again, because of T-Mobile. If it weren't for T-Mobile competing in this, I think Verizon used to charge a huge amount. I think you'd buy 250 megabytes of data for like $100. It was some crazy, terrible deal. But we all use data all the time. And when you're traveling, when you're overseas, it's really nice to have a smartphone with data. I'll give you a couple of scenarios. You leave the hotel, you go out and do some sightseeing, you look around, there's no cabs, you have no idea where you are. If you have data on your phone, you fire up Google Maps and you say, I want to walk back to my hotel. How do I do it? And you'll have a map. You're getting hungry. You can get restaurants nearby. It's really nice. And of course, text messages in most of these plans are included, certainly in T-Mobile. So the ability to, instead of doing a phone call home, which does still cost a little bit more, text messaging, usually unlimited free, is a great way to stay in touch with the folks at home. So I think having a smartphone as you're out and about overseas is a very good tool. T-Mobile has, easily the best plan because it's free. And if you want higher speed, then they'll do that. They'll send you a text every day saying, you can get a pass and get higher speed. I never do that. I've done it a couple of times. It's not much faster. So yeah, that's you've on your own figured out the right thing. Now, I do refer people to when you travel overseas, and probably a lot of you are. It's this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere, anyway. If you are planning to leave the country, Google the site Prepaid with Data Wiki. I'd give you the address, but it's long and crazy. We'll put it in the show notes. But if you just Google Prepaid with Data Wiki, you'll find a page that's maintained by users that tells you every country in the world, whether, it's worth getting. I wouldn't get a SIM because that's going to change your phone number. You're going to have a local phone number. Sometimes, it's worth it because the data's cheap. But you could also get a little MiFi card, one of those little credit card-sized devices that gets its data from the mobile network but turns it into Wi-Fi, which you can then have your phone join and carry that in your pocket. And those aren't very expensive. I've used those too. But nowadays with T-Mobile and Google Fi, we're pretty much set. We're well set. Eric, Orange, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, Eric.
Hello, how are you, sir?
I am well. How are you?
Good. You caught me. I'm just trying to get back to my car.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we keep you on hold a long time so that we can hopefully catch you off guard.
Well, you did that anyway.
I apologize.
I have for you. I have newborn twins.
Oh, congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you. So they've become very addicted to their baby Einstein and Sesame Street.
Oh, neat.
And I'm taking them to Mexico to a resort that we typically go, and I know that Wi-Fi is real spotty.
Yes.
So I guess, is there any possible, is it legal or illegal, or is there a way to download like the Baby Einstein videos DVDs that I've already paid for?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. I didn't know if you could just do that or if I had to go buy a little mini CD player.
Well, here's a couple of things. Do you have a tablet, like an iPad of some kind or anything like that?
Yeah, I have one of those, the Microsoft whatever book you have.
So kids love the tablets. You said newborns.
Yeah, they're not going to be touching anything.
They just stare at it. It's like something to look at. You can download a lot of this stuff. Netflix lets you download stuff. Amazon Prime. I would look and see what streaming services that you already subscribe to.
I have Amazon Prime. I have Netflix and all that.
So both of those will let you download stuff. The Baby Einstein stuff isn't on a streaming service, though, right? You have to.
No.
Yeah.
They watch it on the TV that way, but I do have a set of DVDs that somebody gave us.
So you have the DVDs. It's easy to what we call rip these, not from rip off, by the way. I think it sounds like you're ripping it off, but you bought these. It's merely making a digital hard drive copy of the media, so you don't have to carry those DVDs with you. And anybody with kids is doing this. There's two programs you'll need. One is called Handbrake, and these are both free from handbrake.fr, HANDBRAKE, like a handbrake on a car. Handbrake.fr. That is a free ripping utility. They call it the open source video transcoder, and what it does is it actually turns it into bits, and you can choose the quality and so forth of the streaming content. But it will say, "Oh, this is a commercial DVD," and it will also then say, if you want to be able to rip this commercial DVD, you'd need something called the Video LAN client, or VLC, which is at videolan.org. Between the two of those, you can make a copy of that DVD. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'll travel. He's been everywhere, man. He's Jony Jet, our travel guru, using technology to travel like a rock star. JonyJet.com. Hey, Johnny.
Hello, Leo.
And hello to Natalie and the little one. You've got a baby on the way in another few weeks.
Yep, you might be able to hear my 2-year-old in the background.
And there's Jack. How did the family enjoy the earthquake? They had a little ride yesterday.
Yeah, they didn't really enjoy it too much.
Did you feel it? Because it really is fairly distant from Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, it's about 120 or 30 miles away.
It was a strong earthquake.
We didn't feel because we were outside.
Yeah.
But last night, we definitely felt it. Natalie was upstairs resting. Jack and I were watching TV, and all of a sudden I heard the windows rattling just a little bit. I was like, that doesn't sound right. And then it just hit, and Jack jumped into my arms, and I just held him. Looking back, I should have gone right underneath the dining room table. But
that's what I was saying earlier. You never think of that. I just run around in circles going earthquake, earthquake, earthquake.
Yeah. So the good thing about this is that it really gives people a warm up. Let you practice and what is your plan. And I've been watching some of the news, and actually I've made apps and websites before in the past, but you need a little refresher. And so when I travel, I always want to know if there's an earthquake or a tsunami. So I have my phone, lit up when anything happens. So, if you are traveling or even if you're home, if you live in Southern California or where earthquakes hit, it's a good idea to have these different resources at your fingertips.
Yes. So what do you recommend?
So one is tsunami.gov. Okay. So this is a website. You go to it. And actually, I'll put in the show notes and I'll tweet it out. It's a long URL to subscribe to their newsletter.
Okay.
But you subscribe to it, and right away, within minutes, they'll let you know if there's a tsunami warning in effect wherever there's a big earthquake. So you'll get emails, often, not crazy often, but probably once a week I get them with information about there's no warning or there is a warning, so get to high ground. And you really want this if you're traveling somewhere like I always think about if I'm in the South Pacific and down in Fiji or Vanuatu, there's a lot of earthquakes down there. Papua New Guinea. So you want to know this kind of information.
They call it the Ring of Fire. We're on the Ring of Fire.
Right. So that's one of the.
There is, by the way, I should say right now, as we record this, no tsunami warning, advisory, watch, or threat. So good. However, it does record that earthquake that you felt in Central California last night.
Yeah, and then if you click on that, it'll tell you the message, which I think you just read. Yeah. But also on Twitter, I follow New Earthquake, just called New Earthquake, and they use the USGS and NOAA as their. I guess they just have automatic updates. When it happens, they just tweet it out. So you'll be one of the first to know if you're not in that area or if you're somewhere nearby but didn't feel it, like we were on Saturday. Or not Saturday. I keep thinking Thursday was Saturday because it was a holiday. Because we were outside. But I looked at my phone and I was like, oh my God, there was an earthquake. And there's also an app I really like, which is called actually there's two apps. One is a new one called Shake Alert LA, and I actually featured it when it first came out, I don't know, 6 months ago or a year ago. But it didn't really work. They were supposed to give you a 20-second warning.
Yeah, people have been promising that for a long time.
Yeah, a 15-second warning they're supposed to give you, but they did not. It did not work. I know a lot of people are giving them a lot of grief today, and supposedly they tweaked it. So let's see.
We won't know till the next earthquake whether it works now. Yeah.
And another one I like is called Quake Feed. So this one this one actually sends you an update right away. It's a 99 cents a year if you don't want the ads on them. I have the ads. I don't care. But they will let you know if there's a tsunami risk.
The key here is the alert, right? That it'll pop up an alert. Although it would be nice if you could get some warning, but I think that it's tough.
Well, the Shake Alert LA is the one that's supposed to give you a warning.
Yeah,
at
but
least
it didn't.
In Southern California. It didn't work.
Yeah.
They say they're fixing it. We'll see. But again, if you're traveling somewhere, even if let's say you're in Hawaii and there's a big earthquake in Fiji, which you're not going to feel.
You'd want to know about the
in case there's a tsunami.
Yeah.
So that's why I like it, especially when you're traveling. It's really important. And, also make sure you brush up on what to do in an earthquake. Again, I was telling my wife, do you know what to do? And, I know what to do, but I forgot.
Don't run under a door, apparently. That's what we used to say, but that's not as safe as... So you were right. Get under the table is a good idea. If you have
or a desk. And you're supposed to have a plan for each room that you're in.
Yeah. You can look online, earthquake safety. Another thing I remember after the earthquake in San Francisco, we were handing out, the radio station I was working for at the time, we were handing out little wrenches for your gas line. And we said, go find out where your gas line is, because the fires are often prompted by broken gas lines. So go find out where your gas cutoff is on your home and have that wrench handy so you can turn off the gas.
If you smell it.
Just in case. I'm not believe me, don't listen to my advice because.
Well, no, I was watching an expert today on the local news, and he said, "Listen, turn it off if you smell it, but if you don't smell it, don't turn it off because
you'll kill you.
It can take days for them to turn it back on."
Right.
So.
And yeah, I mean, I think this is probably good to have water and a safety. I bought after the 1989 quake up here, the Loma Prieta quake. I went out, and there are places you can go to get safety kit, emergency kits, and I got some beautiful ones in big orange backpacks and put them in a special place. I said, if there's an issue, get safe, and then once the earthquake's over, grab the backpack and go outside. And it's got water in it and food. It's got blankets and all those things you need. My only problem is my teenage son really liked the orange backpacks.
Oh, my gosh.
So one by one, he emptied them out and started using them for school. But I didn't realize this until I went in the garage and I looked, and there was a pile of earthquake safety supplies on the floor. So maybe don't buy the backpack ones.
I have a big backpack, but it's just it's a blue one, and I think it was like $300.
You can make your own. You can make your own, though. Yeah.
But you also need one for the car, which
That's
again,
right.
when I talk about travel, I always think about air, but most people are traveling by car. So you really need it by car. I mean, you really need a kit for your car.
Yes, I agree.
So do your research on what you need on that, but everything you just listed is.
It's a good time to think about this, prepare for it, and earthquakes happen in places maybe that don't expect earthquakes too. So.
The first one my wife felt was in Toronto.
Yeah. New York City has hundreds of years ago had terrible earthquakes. They haven't had one in a few centuries, so everybody's forgotten about it. But there are faults there.
DC, remember the Washington Monument had a big crack in it because of the earthquake. So
let's not forget the Liberty Bell. No, that was something else.
I was like, the Liberty Bell? No.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Jony Jet, the best way to keep up with Jony is on his website. It's a really great website, JonyJet.com. And there are a number of free newsletters there you can subscribe to, including his Travel Deals newsletter, which will send you periodically, hey, you could fly to Fiji for $29.99 or something like that.
Not $29.99.
No.
But there was a deal once to Fiji, actually not too long ago, for $350, I think, round trip.
I would just go. I would just say, okay, fine. See you in a couple of weeks. I'm on my way to Fiji. Anyway, JonyJet.com. You can also follow him at JonyJet on Twitter. Twitter has now resurfaced lists. For a while, they hid them. But you have made a bunch of really useful travel lists. And if you go to twitter.com/JonyJet, if you have a Twitter account, you'll see on the left column now, the lists are back. You'll see all of Johnny's great lists. Subscribe to some of those. They're really useful. Airlines, flight attendants, all sorts of stuff. Hotels, yeah. And then, of course, Instagram, where we'll all expect to see pictures of the newest jet sometime soon. Please give Natalie my love. I know this is the last month is the toughest.
It's tough.
Yeah. Take care, Jony. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's the toughest for Dad, too, because he can't go anywhere. No traveling for you. Are you gonna still travel?
No, I'm gonna travel a little bit, but nothing crazy.
I think you're getting close now, man. I don't think you should go anywhere.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of commitments I have. I speak at a couple of conferences.
Daddy's got to make the money. That's right. Got to support himself, support the fam.
Dad's getting an operation. I got to be there for that.
Oh, yeah. But you go quickly, right?
I just go for, the good thing these days is you can get a flight within a few hours.
Yeah.
So pretty much anywhere when you live in LA.
We are, I guess last minute, we haven't booked this flight. I'm worried about this. We got to go to Orlando for the New Media Expo next month, which is the big podcast convention. And we decided at the last minute. But a month is not terrible. And Orlando will probably be.
You don't want to buy flights so early because there's no incentive for them to give you a discount. So
right. At this point, we should wait till the day before.
What is it in August?
Yeah.
If it's end of August.
Nobody wants to go to Orlando in August.
But when the kids go back to school is when, usually around August 15th is when the flights start going down because kids are going back.
Yeah, I think the podcast movement is earlier.
I ran into a friend yesterday. She said and they live in Phoenix. Her daughter's going to school. They go back to school on August 3rd. I was like,
yeah, that's good for us travelers. August 13th, I'll be flying to Orlando.
Well, the flight there will be more expensive than the flight back.
Yeah. And then we're going down your way at the end of the month, bringing the 5 teenage boys.
Well, if you want to get together and go down to the beach, maybe let me know.
Yeah. I think we will. Yeah.
We could have a beach day.
Yeah. Awesome.
A beach day with us is like 2 hours with Jack.
Yeah, that's plenty of time.
Because after 2 hours of chasing him around the beach, we're ready to pass out.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful afternoon. Do something fun with a lady.
Don't you worry.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 88. Ask Leo. Back to the phones. Line 2, Phil in Reno, Nevada. Hello, Phil.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I am well. How are you, Phil?
You know, I am just peachy keen. Thank you very much.
Good. What can I do for you?
Well, a quick note. Something people need to keep in their emergency kits, and it's being overlooked by millennials, is to have a real radio in there.
Oh, yeah. They don't even know what the radio is, I think. I have one of those C. Crane crank radios. You crank up, so if you don't have power, you can give it enough power and get the AM radio band, because that's where the emergency information will be. I completely agree with you.
Just food for thought.
Yeah, well, as a radio guy, I appreciate that food. Thank you.
Hey, I am at my wit's end here. I recently stuck my toe into the Apple pool, and I got myself into an iPad Air 2.
Nice.
And I paid the extra money to get the 64-gigabyte version so I can put a lot of stuff in there and have it on hand.
Right.
The problem I'm running into is how do I stuff things into my iPad? I've tried plugging it into my computer, and it will recognize it's there, but I can't move any files from onto the other like an Android tablet.
Yeah. So Apple, in its infinite wisdom, one thing to understand about Apple is they're very opinionated about how you might use devices like this. And they've decided, I don't think incorrectly, but I may not like it, but this is probably accurate, that the best thing to do is just tell people how it's going to be and not give them too much leeway to get in trouble. So one of the things they did with the iPad is they really didn't give you access to the file system. You can't really, even though you know it's a computer with an operating system and it has files, it's a storage device, but they hide it from you. They even have a Files app, but it won't show you the files exactly. It won't let you browse around on the hard drive. It'll just say, well, you have some documents and pages, you have some documents and numbers. It does it by app. And that's really the idea, is that the app will manage its own files. And for security, no third app will be able to see the files of any other app. And that's for security, but it's also for simplicity. They are starting to break away from that. The new iPad Pros and the new iPad OS, which will come out in September, although you can get a beta of it now, and I have been using it, do let you attach a USB hard drive to its USB-C port, copy files to and from. So that's very exciting. But you can't do it with your Air 2, and you'll never be able to do it with your Air 2. So the way you have to do it is through iTunes, which, by the way, is also going away in the fall, but they'll have a new way of doing it through the operating system. So you connect it up with your USB cable and your Lightning cable to a Mac or a PC running iTunes. And then you can see the files that are on there. Again, same way, though, by app, and copy files. What do you want to put on your iPad?
Pictures and music, just the usual kind of stuff. Nothing.
So you have to go with music. You have to go through iTunes. So you'll import it into iTunes, and then you'll let iTunes Music management features copy it to the iPad. Movies, They have a new app which they're going to be putting out called TV. That'll be designed to do that, but until that comes out, you also use iTunes for movies. So TV shows, movies, and music, all media files go through iTunes. And then you do have a player on the iPad that'll play back the movies and TV shows.
But what about pictures? I've tried even doing it with Google Drive, and that doesn't work.
Pictures, if you're on a Mac, you import into Photos, Apple's Photos app, and then synchronize. It's a little more complicated on Windows because there's no default photo app. So you set it up when you set up iTunes. You say, well, I'm going to keep my photos here. So, again, you can't do it by just dragging photos on there. Now, I happen to like Google Photos. And Google Photos kind of does an end around on all this. So if you're willing to put Google Photos on your iPad,
sure.
Yeah, then you can turn on the feature that any photo I take, just put it in Google Photos, just like Apple Photos. Apple Photos stores it natively, but Google Photos will do the same thing. And then back it up to Google. Google gives you unlimited backup of all your photos. At that point, you can look at it on your PC. Similarly, you can move stuff on your PC into Google Photos, and it will appear on your iPad. And that's done wirelessly.
Okay.
That's the advantage of that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give that a try.
So Apple wants you to use iCloud to do this, or a cable. In other words, you're using it turns out, doesn't it, to be more complicated, but only because you have an expectation based on using computers. If no one had ever seen a computer and didn't understand that there were files there and file systems and all this, maybe this wouldn't be as weird and awkward. It is very awkward. Well, and guess what? You need to use a computer to do it. Which is stupid.
Yeah, I'm old school. I've been using computers since Apple II Plus.
Yeah.
Was a big thing.
Yeah, see, that's why it's confusing, because there's files on that drive. There's a file system. It's hidden from you. You're not allowed to access it.
They're just meanies. That's all there is to it.
They know how it should be, and they don't brook any dissent. It's kind of a totalitarian state in Apple land. But some people like it, right? They prefer it because they don't want to have to think about it. They just want it to work. Problem is, when you get to these edge cases where it doesn't work, then it's hard.
Hey, I do appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Yeah, thank you for calling. I always relish any opportunity to rag on Apple. And I love Apple, and I use Macs, and I use, I have an iPhone sitting here, I have an iPad and all that, but those of us who understand what's going on under the hood can sometimes be rankled because we go, well, wait a minute, Apple, just let me access it. And the good news is, I think with iPad OS and the next generation iPads, I think we're going to finally get kind of a crack in the armor. Let's hope so. 1 hour from now, Mad Magazine's Dick DeBartolo will join us. He, of course, usually joins us with a gizmo or a gadget. He's our gizwiz. This week, no gizmo or gadget, because I want to talk to him about what's happening to Mad Magazine. Is it the end of the line? That's coming up in an hour. Meanwhile, Stan, St. Louis, Missouri. Hello, Stan.
Oh, hi, Leo. Thank you very, very much for taking my call and for everything you do.
My pleasure. Thanks for holding on.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I also love the music variety. There's never enough time to listen.
No, I know. Thank Big Pee Wee for that. He is in charge of our bumper music, and he does a dynamite job. Yeah.
Oh, it's marvelous stuff. Yeah. I love the variety.
Thank you.
I've got a compliment, complaint, and some comments.
Okay, well, you got 1 minute, so let's start with, you start with whatever you want.
Okay, a compliment. The last 3 to 4 years, you've been very both complimentary and critical of Linux and BSD. That's really appreciated.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah,
I really am. And you heard me say, I think that's the one. Unix and its flavors, which include Linux, is the one true operating system, and there's just no reason to go anywhere else.
Right. My complaint is you don't often enough recommend using SpinRite when troubleshooting systems.
My friend Steve Gibson agrees. GRC.com. The only reason is it's $90, and you could buy a 4 terabyte hard drive for $90 these days.
It other than Windows 7 was the only software I've bought in the last 20 years.
Nice. Hey, I'm going to have to run. Hang on with the comments, though. We'll get the comments after we take a break. Leo Laporte, The Tech Guy. Don't forget, more calls coming up. 8888 Ask Leo. The website, it's free, techguylabs.com. Yeah, I'm getting real close to putting OpenBSD on one of my ThinkPads. That's the real one true Unix.
Yeah.
So what comments?
Okay. I'm 71 years old, vice president of the St. Louis Unix Users Group.
Oh, nice. How long has that been around?
Oh, since we've been meeting continuously since, I think, further back than that, 96. I lost records, so I don't know.
That's amazing. And you've been a member of the user group that whole time?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, I retired from the Army as an information chief, and went looking for email, and they were setting up a computer, and I was the first guy to write a check to
nice.
buy this thing.
Do they call it Slug?
Yes, SLUUG.org.
Slug. I love it.
Yes, and
I wish I were in St. Louis. I would go to every meeting. I love that.
We have a calendar on our group where we list all the technical face-to-face meetings in St. Louis area, and the average is between 150 to 170 meetings face-to-face every month.
Isn't this great? And you think it's fair of me? I think it's fair of me to call Linux, Android, even Chrome OS. Those are Unixes. They're POSIX-compliant Unixes.
Yes. I have my preferences and prejudices.
Which do you use? What do you like?
I use the Linux Mint Mate because I think it's the best for newcomers.
Yeah.
We have a lot of seniors that come in. They're running Windows XP or whatever.
I know, or Windows 7. You know, this is an interesting question because I was just writing a column for the AARP magazine, and I thought, because, one of the question I'm answering is, what do I do in January when Windows 7 runs out? And I really want to say, put Linux on there, but I'm nervous about recommending it. So I think I said, if you're technically sophisticated and up for a challenge, but it isn't really that hard. You know what my favorite is right now, Stan? Is Pop! OS from System 76.
I've been reading about that and watching it.
They've polished a lot of the hard edges off, and it really is easy to install. It's really good.
I recommend the Linux Mint Mate and the Ubuntu Mate.
Yep.
To people.
Mate's nice and lightweight, desktop manager. And Mint and Ubuntu are all kind of flavors of Debian. Mint's based on Ubuntu. Ubuntu's based on Debian. Pop! OS is also based on Ubuntu. But the guys at System 76 sell Linux-based computers, so they've really they've got the NVIDIA drive, all the non-free drivers you need for the NVIDIA and it's just beautiful. It's very sweet.
I've got PDF beginner help file on my website.
Oh, nice. What's your website?
Links to a whole bunch of helpful sites and so forth.
What's your website, Stan?
Well, we're www.sluu.
Oh, it's on the Slug site. Oh, okay.
And instead of the www, you put NEW in front of that. .slug.org. That goes to the Linux site, definitely.
Oh, good. The Linux user group. Okay.
Yeah, I chair the newcomer lug. I also host a Linux configuration workshop that we hold with the St. Louis Area Computer Club.
What a great idea! You're preaching to the choir with me. This is something we got to get people to start using. I agree 100%.
I read a magazine years ago, and it had an article that said, "Go for the gray." All the grandparents running Linux, the kids.
Yeah.
What is that, Grandpa?
It's more secure. They're going to love it. So there's a wonderful book that I'd forgotten about, and I just started reading again. It's its 20th anniversary from Neil Stephenson, one of my favorite authors. In the beginning was the command line. Have you ever read that?
I read that like every 4 or 5 years.
Isn't that the greatest book? I forgot how great that was.
Yes. That, and I read the O'Reilly VI Vim book, too.
Oh, yeah. I'm an Emacs guy, but I like Vim a lot. Yeah.
I can understand that. No religious squabbles here, though.
No. The only reason I use Emacs is because I like Lisp, and it's just a beautiful way to write Lisp.
I wish I'd started out with Lisp because I know that it's so beautiful.
I ruined my brain with BASIC, like most of us.
I did, too.
Yeah. Bad way to start. Little did I know. Then C, then assembler.
Yeah.
Man, I got it all messed up. But I'm relearning. I started from scratch with Lisp, and I feel much better now.
I've got 2 final comments.
Yes, sir.
It's number 1, my friend Carl says, it's hard to sell free software.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the last is, watch out for the motorcycles. I've got a nephew in the hospital. He's been there 9 weeks.
Oh, no.
And my brother wrecked his
I'm so
bike
sorry.
Friday, and they just let him out yesterday.
Oh, thank God he's okay.
4th of July.
Oh.
He had 7 broken ribs. But my nephew, he can't even walk yet.
Is his brain okay? Is his brain okay?
Oh, yeah. He's starting to move, got feeling and everything.
God.
it's a slow comeback. He was trying to avoid a deer and wound up in a ditch overnight before they even found him.
Oh, poor kid.
Lucky to be here.
Oh, man.
So,
yeah, they're fun to ride, but boy, are they dangerous.
Oh, yeah, I gave up doing that when I went through a barbed wire fence when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I keep telling my younger brother, don't let me get on one of those.
No.
Don't let me get on one of those.
They're so much fun. It's like you're flying. You feel like you're flying, but it's just you are flying without a net, and it's so dangerous.
I gave up the motorcycle, but I wasn't smart enough to stay off of four-wheelers. I broke a shoulder.
Oh, man. Well, that's because, if you live in St. Louis, you got to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Stan, it is a real pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for keeping Slug going. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the newcomer group has been meeting since the year 2000. And we were well before then the Unix group. I think
that's so great. That's so great. I they always mock us saying, "Oh yeah, this is the year of Linux on the desktop," but Linux now is more widely used than any other operating system in the world, thanks to Android. And I think that Unix's time has finally come.
I've been looking for a quotation I saw years ago. Some gal at one of the meetups, or not meetup, conferences. She had a slideshow, and she said on one of her slides, and I've been looking for that thing ever since, she said, the U.S. is going to be the last country in the world to adopt Linux.
That's right, because of Windows.
That's right.
No, that's right. You're already seeing that in China and Russia. They're not using Windows anymore.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Hey, really a pleasure to talk to you, Stan. Keep up the good work. You're doing God's work out there.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's so great. Thank you, sir. Have a good one. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Yeah, time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Everything we talk about is on the website, techguylabs.com. Techguylabs.com. And that's free. There's no sign up. There's no charge. Just wander on in. It's wide open to all. techguylabs.com. I want to put a link. James, if you would, put a link up to a book that I mentioned and I really like. I hadn't read it in years. It came out about 20 years ago. And I came across an article celebrating its 20th anniversary, and I've been reading a lot of its author's other books. He's one of the great science fiction authors of our time, a man named Neal Stephenson. And he wrote a book that I think not only is wonderfully written, because he's a great writer, it's really more of an essay than a book. It's a thin book. You can read it in a couple of hours. But it's also, I think, a very interesting history up to 20 years ago of personal computing. And if you want to better understand, I feel like anybody who's getting into technology in the last 10 years is missing out on kind of some fundamental information about how we got to where we are today. And this book is a very good, entertaining, and easy to read. And it might set your teeth on edge because he's very opinionated. But I think I think it's all well thought out. It's called "In the Beginning Was the Command Line," and I'll put a link in the show notes. You can still buy it on Amazon. I got the Kindle version right away, and I think they're printing more. "In the Beginning Was the Command Line." It's on Amazon by Neal Stephenson, and what a great. Actually, I think there are some. I think they're actually. You could read it online. Yeah, there's PDFs of it. Georgetown University has a PDF. I guess Neal has let the copyright lapse. So there's versions of it online. You don't even have to buy it. I bought it because I want to support Neal. In fact, even on his website, I guess he doesn't have the whole text, but Georgetown does. So if you want, you can just look online. I'll put the link to Amazon on the show notes. In the Beginning Was the Command Line. Really well written. 1999, 20 years ago. Line 3, Kevin, Asheville, North Carolina. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Leo. Hope you're having a great day.
I'm having a wonderful day. How are you?
Oh, blessed every day. The reason I'm calling.
Yes.
A friend of mine is trying to get away from Windows.
Well, that's very timely. That's what we've been talking about all day, it seems like. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I loved what you were talking with Stan about all the different program languages.
Yeah,
I'm looking at Clojure myself. I haven't even... I'm brand new to programming.
Highly recommended. So one of the advantages of Clojure, besides the fact that it's a true functional language and beautifully written, is it writes either Java or JavaScript. So you can write in Clojure, but your programs can run anywhere, including the web. And that's a very powerful tool. I highly recommend it. Yeah, good for you.
I'll be looking further into that. I'm doing Clojure for the Brave and Bold is the name of it.
Yeah, for the Bold and True. Yes.
Bold and True. Yeah.
One of the greatest programming books ever written. Very nice book. Highly recommended.
Nice.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to help my friend do is his entire workflow is based mainly around an old Windows program called CADVance.
Oh my.
And I'm wondering, is there a good alternative that functions pretty much the same way in Linux, or is there a way to run that under Linux? Because I'm trying to get him completely away from Windows.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that's holding him up.
Yeah, and this is, so what I was talking about earlier was there are reasons why you'd stay with Windows. If you're a gamer, for instance, if you use Windows at work, anywhere with an IT department, Windows isn't such a problem because you've got people to manage it for you. And if there's a program you absolutely need that will only run on Windows, CADVance is one of these what we call vertical programs. It's not used by a broad number of people. It's used very specifically by architects, engineers. Is he a facilities manager? Is that what he does?
He's an engineer.
He's an engineer. So he uses it for designing what?
That I'm not 100% clear on, but he does it primarily for designing. I know he was helping out back in the early days of the shuttle with getting some things on there wired up right. He had so much wire he could work with on that. Then he also does some stuff dealing with computers. He also basically redoes speakers and speaker cabinets.
So what I'm going to give you is a very useful website called alternative2.net. And what Alternative 2, it's specifically for people like you who are saying, well, I don't want to use Windows anymore, but I do need this program. What is the alternative to this program on Mac, PC, Linux, whatever? So if you go to Alternative 2 and you put in CADVance and you say, I'm looking for a Linux version of it, it'll show you what's available on Linux. And it's crowdsourced, so it'll also have reviews, which I think is very handy because what you want is people who are using it to do the same thing that he's doing. And since I don't know exactly what he's doing. But the nice thing about... So Linux is what we call an open source operating system, and that's a little bit of a misleading name. It was invented by a graduate student in 1992 named Linus Torvalds. It was an operating system. Now, the thing about operating systems is they're pretty well known. You could in theory use a computer without an operating system. People do it all the time, but it's nice to have an operating system underneath what you're doing so that the guy who wrote CADVance, for instance, doesn't have to write additional code for opening files, saving files, browsing the internet, things like that. So the operating system has functionality that every program will use. It's not hard. It's not complicated. And we made it a little bit more complicated with graphical user interfaces. Those are pretty tough. But the ideas behind an operating system are not that complicated. And really well solved back in the 80s and the 70s by Unix. So Linux was written by Linus Torvalds, a graduate student in 1992. Basically, he wanted his own version of something that was Unix-like. And he did something very unusual. He gave it away. He said, look, I'm not going to sell this. I'm not going to be a Bill Gates here and try to make $1 billion off of this. I'm going to give it away. I'm going to keep the name. I'm going to trademark that so that people can't just go around calling stuff Linux. I'll be the benevolent dictator for life. But I'm going to let other people work on it. And the timing was good because that's right about when the internet started, as you may remember, in the early 90s. And it made it possible for developers, coders all over the world to contribute as a result. It also was good timing because another guy in Boston named Richard Stallman was he didn't want to pay for, there were a number of companies charging for Unix. He was trying to duplicate Unix and all the Unix utilities with free software. He started something called the Free Software Foundation. So when you get Linux, you're getting Linus Torvald and Company's kernel, the inside guts of it, with software from the Free Software Foundation. They call it GNU. GNU stands for GNU's not Unix. It's a programmer joke. So that's what Linux is. There are many versions of Linux, lots of them. I have some favorites and so forth. But in every case, it's open source in the sense that it's free, can be freely distributed. You can modify it. You can get the source code and modify it. You can see what the source code's doing. There's no hidden features. And because it's so popular and so widely used, there's lots of people out there. It turns out programmers, in many cases, are happy to get credit instead of money. And there are a lot of companies who are supporting this kind of development. So there are a lot of open source programs to do things like computer-aided design, CAD. And they're available widely, usually for free. And I'm looking at alternative2.net, and I see quite a few. So at least a dozen. So I'm sure he can find something that'll suit him. But as usual, better to teach a man to fish. So alternative2.net. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. And we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we'll take more of your calls. And yes, Dick DeBartolo, Mad's maddest writer, will tell us the truth about what's happening to Mad Magazine. Stay here. Cadence Incisive, Cadence Workflow. Those are a couple of, I don't think that's right. You know what, I'm going to look at AutoCAD because, the truth is that's the CAD. So there's FreeCAD, which is an open source mechanical engineering tool. I've never used any of these, so I don't have any experience. FreeCAD works similarly to CATIA, SolidWorks, or Solid Edge. So it's MCAD, PLM, CAX, and CAE. There's DraftSite. That's more like, it looks like 2D drafting. LibreCAD. Libre is often used for free and open source software because it's free in Spanish, or liberated in Spanish. LibreCAD is also a 2D CAD application for actually Mac, Windows, and Linux. SketchUp, that's the old Google program that's been out there. BricsCAD, BRICS CAD. OpenSCAD, SolidWorks, which is very well known. That's the one I know a lot of people like SolidWorks. That's a 3D modeling choice. NanoCAD, SolveSpace, QCAD, Onshape. Oh, there's quite a few. OpenCascade, CorelCAD, Shaper 3Ds. There's lots. I would bet generally what happens is because it's not developed by a big corporation, the user interface is, for a lot of open source programs, a little quirky, but probably no more quirky than what you're using in a closed source version. And there's usually a lot more support and people out there who want to help you with it. BricsCAD. See, a lot of people know about this, huh? Nice. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. He's super bad. John and Sandy, thank you to Big Pee Wee, our musical director, for that one. John in San Diego, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Leo, really appreciate your time and your support, and it's been a great show.
Thank you. Indeed. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support.
I love listening. My question has to do with the Amazon Fire product. My wife, in all her wonderful wisdom and the wonderful mother of my child, got me one of these products. But it seems like I have to run everything through Amazon and registration and all their stuff. And I know a little bit about it, not too much. But is there a way to reboot that or install something, wipe it clean and install something else on there?
Yeah, there probably is. What might help is if you put the Google Play Store on there, because then at least you'd have all. It's Android. It's just Amazon flavored Android.
Right.
If you and you can easily Google this and put the Google Play Store on my Fire tablet, and it's not too hard to do. It's not hacking. It's not jailbreaking it. It's nothing tricky about it. You just install it, and once you do that, all the other Android apps are available to you. My experience with Amazon Fire tablets, Fire TV, even to some extent the Kindle, is that they tend to be ads for Amazon. You know, that's why they're so inexpensive, because Amazon is subsidizing, in effect, the hardware. And I kind of agree with you. I stopped using the Fire TV for that reason, because it really was all about promoting Amazon. And I just didn't. I got tired of it. You probably can, with a little more difficulty, turn the Fire tablet into an Android tablet. It will require rooting it. So an Android device... you probably know that a computer has an administrative account. Sometimes they call it the super user or the root account, which lets you do anything. Tablets don't ever come with a root account. Phones don't either. However, Android phones, it's usually pretty easy to put a root account on there. Once you've done that, now you can do anything you want, including wipe out the firmware and often put something else in there. So I'll put a link in the show notes to the very simple process, doesn't require root, to install the Google Play Store. That might get you most of the way there without a lot of geekery. We'll put the link to that. And then if you want to root your Fire tablet and put another firmware on there, you're going to have to find ROM firmware that works with it. And I'm not familiar with that, but I can tell you where you'll find it, which is the XDA Developers Forum. XDA-developers.com. This is the ultimate Android forum, and if you go into devices there, and you enter the exact Fire tablet you have, if it's rootable, if it's changeable, they will have the process to do it. That's where I go to find out how to root any of the Android phones I have too. I don't know how much Amazon locks it down, to be honest. Some phones are easily rooted, some phones are not. Samsung historically kind of tries to keep you from rooting it. But Google themselves doesn't seem to have a problem with rooting an Android device. That's as far as they're concerned. If you're smart enough to figure out how to do it, you're smart enough not to screw yourself up.
So that'll all be in the show notes.
Yes, we'll put links to XDA Developers, which is xda-developers.com, and the How To Geek article on putting the Google Play Store. I do that first.
Okay.
But once you've figured out how to do that, then if you decide I still don't want all the ads for Amazon products on there, then yeah, you might want to root it. I have a feeling, given that Amazon makes these so inexpensive, it may well be that it isn't really a great idea to root it. But I'm just not sure. I've not tried it. I keep my Fire. I have a Fire tablet, and I keep it running Fire because I want to, experience the Amazon experience. It's not a great. I mean, they don't have a great. The Silk browser is not great. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to do this. I don't blame you. And it's not your wife's fault. She didn't know. It's actually, for an inexpensive tablet, it's pretty darn good, actually. Darren Aurora, Illinois, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Darren.
Hi, how you doing, Leo?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm going to take you off the speaker here.
Okie doke.
I'm doing pretty good. My question is, I live in Aurora, Illinois, second largest city in Illinois.
Yep.
But I'm only able to get 18 download speed.
Ugh. This is really a sad state of affairs in the United States. Our internet, we invented the darn thing. We should have the best internet in the world. We don't.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I used to live out in the country about.
And you got
15,
better internet.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to guess with 18 megabits down, you're probably on a DSL line from the phone company. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's plugged into the phone outlet.
Yeah. So that is really a limit of DSL. DSL, digital subscriber line, was kind of the phone company's response to the internet craze. But it's limited because it's coming in over that twisted pair. There's just two wires coming in for your phone service. They're riding it on top of that. And it's just electrically, it can't get higher bandwidth than that. In fact, 18's not bad. It probably has something to do with how close you are to the central office and how good your wiring is. So you might, if you want...
18's on a good night.
Yeah. So you might, if you want to get higher speed, cable companies almost always offer better speed. And
nobody offers it to...
Interesting. Aurora's big enough, there might be a fiber operator or other high-speed internet choices. Go to DSLreports.com.
DSL Reports. Yeah,
great site. Yeah, great site. They're independent, and you can enter in your zip code, and they'll tell you what the ISPs are, and they'll give you reviews. In fact, right on the front page of DSL Reports, they have 3 columns: happy customers, mixed, and unhappy.
Yeah, no, I'm on disability.
Okay.
And I got somebody in here, building here.
So it might be.
I'm on a government or assisted program, and I'm in a government building.
Okay.
Could that have anything?
Yeah, it might be. This is another reason that we have the worst internet because
Leo.
Is
that for Darren?
All right, that's one of the reasons we have bad internet here is that it's all commercial, and the commercial companies are built to make profit, and they're going to go where they can make the most profit. So the rural areas of this country where population density is low are poorly served, and I'm betting you government housing isn't well served either because they're limited in how much money they can make. So that's a problem. It's one of the reasons we've looked to the FCC to do something about this. It's important. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888, ask Leo, line 1. Jenna, Missoula, Montana. Hello, Jenna.
Hi, Leo.
Welcome.
Thank you. And you were just talking about the kindness of others, and where would any of us be
That's
without
right.
it?
It's called society. It's called civilization.
So I was telling your call taker, I was cleaning my closet and came upon a radio that I've had since I was 6.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to turn 64 in a couple months, and it still works, and there you were.
Isn't that amazing? And I was on it. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's the only station I get.
Isn't that hysterical? That's awesome. Here we are 60 years later, and it's still working, and here we are talking together.
Yeah.
That's
so you're talking to a former, well, I'll say communications person that worked on a computer system called Streamliner back in the mid-70s.
I'm not familiar with Streamliner. Tell me about that.
It filled my house, and now this little Samsung Core Prime phone has more.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? We're carrying a supercomputers in our pockets.
Yeah. So here's my problem.
Yeah.
Financially, I'm a veteran, but financially, I just hit a speed bump. And I don't use, I'm a musician and I'm a reader, so I don't use my desktop or my little tablet very much at all. And I'm thinking of getting rid of it and just getting the cheapest Wi-Fi I can find and taking this Samsung Core Prime phone and finding the best plan.
That's a great idea because once you're on Wi-Fi, you won't be using data on the phone, and the phone will effectively cost you nothing except your monthly, fee. But other than that, yeah. In fact, you could probably cut your monthly fee by using a low data plan and just sticking with the Wi-Fi.
Can you recommend any, Leo?
Well, I'm not familiar with Missoula, Montana, so I don't know who your internet service providers are. But in general, we always, in most areas of the country, we have, if we're lucky, 2 choices. We ought to have 30, but the telecommunications companies are extremely powerful in this country, so they've managed to make sure that we have duopolies in most areas. And that's usually the cable company, who has a monopoly in Missoula, I'm sure, and the phone company, who has a monopoly in Missoula. Generally, cable company internet is faster but more expensive. In both cases, they'll use the wire going into your house, your cable or your phone line,
Yeah, the phone.
Yeah, pump data down that, and then they will provide you with a box on the other end that turns it into Wi-Fi.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So you already have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but I'm looking for a cheaper plan. It's only $19 a month.
Well, that's about as low as you're going to go. That's from the phone company, I'm guessing.
Yeah. CenturyLink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think you're going to get much less expensive than that because, well, that's just the state of the art. You might look. I'm going to send you again to that site I sent our last caller to. DSL Reports. You can enter in your zip code, and you can see all the companies that offer internet access to your area.
Well, I'm not even interested in internet access because I can get that free at the public library. But just a basic phone.
I see what you're saying. You want less expensive phone service.
Yeah.
And of course, you'll get data with that. Oh yeah. Well, so we all know the big four. Sprint, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon.
Yeah, I'm with Verizon.
Yeah, you're with the most expensive carrier out there right now. I spend $90 a month for my Verizon phone, unlimited data. That's an awful lot. I just got, and I should say a disclaimer, they're going to be a sponsor at some point, but I just got something from Mint Mobile. They're what we call an MVNO. There are a lot of these guys. MVNO stands for Mobile Virtual Network Operator. And that's a big long term that really means they resell phone service from one of the big four.
Oh, okay.
In the case of Mint Mobile, they resell it from T-Mobile. T-Mobile has their own Metro PCS, which is their version of an MVNO, although they're company owned. There are many of these. In fact, if you go to Walmart, you'll see Straight Talk, which is similar. Those are all MVNOs. But I was really impressed by the pricing. I don't think anybody's less expensive than Mint Mobile. $15 a month or less.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, so what I would do is go to their site, mintmobile.com, and they have a little calculator. You can look at the different. You can use your existing phone. You already have a phone, so if it works, and you can check to see if it'll work with it. The way they work is kind of interesting. You pay ahead. It's a pay-as-you-go plan. It's not a bill you afterwards. You pay ahead of time. For $15 a month, you get 3 gigabytes of download and then all the phone calls and all the text messages you want. So I think that's a pretty good price. 3 gigabytes is a lot is plenty for most people. And then they generally charge you less if you buy a year at a time, which I think is probably the best way to do it. I paid $300 for a plan that's 12 gigabytes a month. And then if you use more than that, they charge you between $7 and $10 a gigabyte for extra. But I think 3 is a lot. I'd be surprised if you use more than that.
I wouldn't even need 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are other ones like this. That Ting is another one that my father-in-law is on. That's very affordable. But after looking at all the prices, I think that most affordable I've seen is this Mint Mobile. If and only if T-Mobile works in Missoula. That's always a question. So look at the coverage map or ask friends, are you using T-Mobile and how that works? So were you in the Signal Corps? Is that what you were?
No, I was a cryptographer.
Cryptographer, yeah. Because that Streamliner, I'm looking at it, that's what for communications.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, it was huge, but
so you were were you in the Army?
Yeah, I was kind of in the Navy.
Navy, okay. Yeah, I'm looking at Streamliner.
Yeah.
Wow, an automated communication system for SIGINT-derived special intelligence message traffic.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we want to keep you online, Jenna. You need to keep your access. Hey, I appreciate the call.
I can always get it at the public library.
That's right. So if you need something faster, do it at the library. And I would take a look at Mint Mobile. I have to say, I have a Mint Mobile phone that I've been using exclusively just to try the service out. And as long as you can use T-Mobile in your neck of the woods, and that's the only limitation.
I believe so. They do have T-Mobile here.
Yeah, boy, I pay $25 a month, which is like a quarter what I paid for a Verizon. And you could pay even less than that, $15 a month or less. So I think that's pretty good. And thank you for your service, Jen. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the call.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Always great to help out our veterans. Always a pleasure. 8888, ask Leo the phone number. Actually, I have time, I think, for one more call, maybe, but it'll have to be after this break. And I do want to let you know we're going to be talking to our Gizwiz, our Gizmo Wizard, Dick DeBartolo. I want to know if he's out of work. He has written, he's been in every Mad magazine for more than 5 decades. He's Mad's maddest writer. A lot of those famous Mad magazine movie parodies and TV show parodies, he wrote them. A lot of the ad parodies, he wrote them. Very funny guy. And if the rumors are true that Mad is shutting down, I want to shed a tear with him when we come back. So no Gizmo this week. I just want to get the inside scoop. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hang in there. Dickie D. Did you shed a tear, Dickie D?
I actually did.
I would.
But
that's horrible. Now, don't.
Yeah.
I want to get you on the air before we talk about it.
Yep.
But
okay.
I was stunned. And there is a wonderful...
As was I.
Yeah. Well, the writing was on the wall when they left you behind.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
John Ficarra, when they left the New York team behind, I mean, geez Louise, I want to know who we can yell at. But did you read the Washington Post piece about Mad?
I believe I did. There is so much online about it.
There is. I will read a little bit of it.
Okay.
To introduce you, because it's beautifully written. It's a guy named, it's Mad. It says Mad Mag. You know what? I'll put it up on the screen so you can see.
Oh, is it Mike? Is it Michael?
No, it's a guy named David Von Drell or Drell.
Oh, okay. No, someone else called me from the Post.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. God. I want to know if there's anything we can do. Just terrible. These guys suck. So this is the piece. Mad Magazine's demise is part of the ending of a world. And he has a paragraph in here.
Oh, the Love Boat. I wrote that.
Yeah, I know. He talks about it. Yeah, I don't know if he mentions your name. He mentions Don Martin, and he mentions...
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Yeah, he mentions, of course, as everybody must, the...
Al Jaffe.
Al Jaffe, the gatefold.
Yes.
Let me read this. The demise of Mad Magazine is hardly a surprise. Times are tricky for print publications in general, all the more so for a title targeted with exquisite precision at middle school boys. They are nature's neglected travelers, parked on an apron while the girls they used to know go racing down the evolutionary runway and take flight into the wild blue of adulthood. Because life, for the moment, scorned them, they returned the favor, and for a couple of generations, mine's for sure, Mad was both a tutor and tool of their anarchy. Its cartoon pages confirmed their suspicions that parents are hypocrites, heroes have clay feet, popular culture is a ripoff, and a guy might as well laugh at existence because existence is already laughing at him. What me worry, asked mascot Alfred E. Newman, eternally hapless, perpetually 13. In its day, Mad would have rolled its googly eyes at the corporate doublespeak of its own death notice. And he does, I think he links to your Love Boat parody. No, that's IMDb. Oh, there it is. Yes, he does. He links to...
Is it the Lust Boat?
Yeah, he links to this.
That's great.
Yeah, the Lust Boat. Oh, this is an auction. Oh, how funny.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that just shows you, right? Being auctioned off. No doubt my interest in the subject. Oh, I don't want these dogs. Thank you. God, I hate the internet. This is why we need Mad back. No doubt my interest in the subject is partly nostalgic. My own middle school years in the early 1970s coincided with the peak of Mad's influence and circulation. 2 million people bought the magazine in those days, and even on a 50-cent weekly allowance, it was worth 40 cents. The usual gang of idiots included a number of supremely talented caricaturists and gag writers, one of them right here, alongside a few authentic geniuses. He talks about Don Martin, Antonio Prohias.
Oh my gosh, yes, Spy versus Spy.
Yep. It's too bad there isn't any sad disco music out there. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're living in a boogie wonderland. With Dick DeBartolo, Mad's maddest writer. Normally, Dick joins us each week to talk about gizmos. We call him our GizWiz at gizwiz.biz. But when I saw the news earlier this week that Mad Magazine would cease publication, I thought of you immediately, Dick. And now I guess what they're saying is they're going to keep publishing best-ofs.
Yes. So, and the funny thing is, there is really no communication between what goes on in LA and us, the writers and the artists. And July 3rd, I called to ask about the piece I was writing for Mad 10. And the person on the phone said, didn't anybody tell you? And I said,
my God.
I said, tell me what? That more than half the staff was let go last week? I said, what?
That's how you found out, huh?
That's how I found out. That's how well, you know, I spoke to Al Jaffe today doing the fold-in, and I said, Al, did you ever think you and I would outlive Mad Magazine? And he said, Dick, when I picked up the New York Times today and saw that, I said, Al, no one told you either? And he said,
how
no.
dare they not tell you and Al Jaffe, of all the people in the world?
It is
Al is in his 90s, right?
Al is 97, I believe.
97. He's been doing that fold-out for decades.
Decades.
You've been doing their parodies and their joke ads for decades.
You know what? There's a thing on Mad Cover Site. A guy, his name is Michael Slaybar, who makes these incredible lists. And so I looked it up last night. I have been in every issue for 53 years.
Wow.
And writing for Mad for 56 years. I started in high school, so it is a long time writing for Mad. The only thing that actually it almost brought me to bigger tears than when I learned Mad was closing was what people are posting online of what Mad meant to them. It's mind-boggling what people, the love that people have for Mad. Everybody from people like Jerry Seinfeld and Lin-Manuel and to the people who said, I hated school, I hated my parents, I just look forward to reading Mad.
So if you want someone to blame for this, blame, guess who? Our favorite whipping boy.
Who's that going to be?
AT&T.
Yeah.
AT&T recently bought Time Warner, right?
Correct.
Which owns DC, the comic book company, which bought Mad some time ago. It was how long ago that DC closed Mad's New York offices?
They closed it in December 2017.
That was iconic. You were on Madison Avenue. I remember taking my daughter, who was about 12 at the time, to visit your offices and to see the original artwork of Don Martin and Antonio Prohias, who did Spy versus Spy, and of course, Al Jaffe. And it was, for me, a pilgrimage to one of the most important things in my youth. And of course, knowing you has been a great treasure because you're one of my heroes. You're a name that echoes in my brain going way back to the 70s.
Well, don't blame me for that. No, I'm proud to be a friend of yours. I just, being associated with Mad has been an incredible experience. I could say I work for ABC News and people, so what? And I write for Mad Magazine. You write for Mad Magazine?
Of course. It's legendary. And everybody of my era grew up. Mad taught us our sense of humor. We grew up with Mad Magazine. It taught us what was funny. It taught us about satire and parody. And there's a beautiful piece I recommend in the Washington Post. It's the #1 most read opinion piece right now. David Vondrell, Mad Magazine's demise is part of the ending of a world. And It is. And is it because it's a print magazine? Is that why you think?
I think it's partly print. I think it's partly that, we were the only people that was years ago saying, the government makes up a lot of stuff. Car companies.
Now, that observation is so, in fact, that's exactly what Vandrell says. We now live in a time where everybody's a spitballer from the president on down. America elected the world's oldest seventh grader in 2016, and so today,
great.
Whether we're doing history or current events, commerce or religion, we're awash in iconoclasm, but nearly bereft of icons. Everyone's a court jester now, he wrote, eager to expose the foibles of kings and queens. But the joke's on us because we no longer have authority figures to keep in check. We're needling balloons that have already gone limp.
No, that's excellent. That is
how can you
excellent.
write satire and parody in an era like this? But yeah, we need it.
Muddled through.
We need it.
That's what a lot of people also are emailing or writing me, is that if we need satire so much right now, even though Washington is producing more satire
it's fertile
per
territory.
hour.
It's fertile territory.
Than we produced in a year.
Did the internet kill Mad Magazine? Tell me that ain't so.
Boy, I don't think so. I think the fact is that what came out of Mad Magazine, satire, like Saturday Night Live and so many people doing satire, it certainly diluted it. You didn't have to look far to find satire. So we can live in the past. What I loved about Mad is that Gaines always. We were sitting down one day and I said, Bill, I'm writing a thing about Mad and I need a quote about your philosophy. And he sat for a minute and he goes, my philosophy. He said, Mad's philosophy is never, ever stop reminding the reader what little value they get for their money. And I thought, that is perfect.
That was the Mad attitude, right?
Yes,
there
yes.
Yeah, the usual gang of idiots, and this is one of them. Yeah,
exactly.
Dick, is there any? Have you been talking to anybody? John Ficarra, the former editor, Al, anybody about what might be the next steps? There's got to be some way to preserve this.
The thing is, it's very difficult, and you nailed it when you said AT&T. You have so many companies now and so many executives involved in making. Yeah, I know. That's why Mad succeeded. Bill was the person. No matter what you needed, Bill told you. I mean, when they took over DC Comics, and I would call up and say, I'm running the AOL Mad thing, and they changed the password or something. Who should I call? And they would go, let me see. Let me call you tomorrow. And then they call back and they said, we have no idea.
No one.
We know
it's too big a company. It's somebody on the 80th floor. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So that was, I think, the beginning of the end when Bill died, they came over and they said, this office looks like a high school newspaper, which we thought was great.
Yeah.
Yes. And they said, Bill put a wall between you and the corporate world. He's dead. The wall is coming down.
Oh, that's a bad sign.
This is our opening introduction.
Welcome
to our new bosses.
And of course, it went from bad to worse. And I can't imagine a worse company to hold any media conglomerate. AT&T, the devil, and I'll say it again, the devil. Dick, if people should follow you on Twitter, his Twitter handle is TheGizWiz, TheGizWiz. Your website, gizwiz.biz. Dick's going to stay on this show. He ain't going anywhere till AT&T buys us. But until then, you got a home. I love you, Dick. Thank you. And I'm so sorry this happened.
Thank you so much for all your thoughts.
Thanks to Big Pee-wee, our musical director, Kim Schaffer for answering the phones. Thanks to you for joining me. We'll be back next time. I hope you will too. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Oh, Dick.
Yeah, don't become a corporation.
Oh, man, AT&T sucks so bad. They're going to ruin HBO. They're going to ruin everything, I swear to God. Ugh.
Yeah, they have I'm sure they don't know who Al Jaffe is or probably who Mad is.
It's some guy in a suit on the 50th floor who says, "What's this line item?" Well, we can get rid of that. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
We're paying what for rent? The writing was on the wall when they moved out of New York because there's no Mad
No,
magazine.
I think so because there's a sensibility in New York that Mad needed.
Yes.
And
Mad was very New York. And in fact, honestly, that's the culture that formed who I am. That was the culture I grew up with. So it's very sad to me. It's an end of an era. I'm devastated. So,
well, I appreciate your time and your help and your thoughts. You've been very
you're going to stay on this show, and we're going to rag on AT&T every chance we get. Damn, those guys suck.
Yeah, tell the ad department don't book any AT&T ads.
I wouldn't do an ad for AT&T if you paid me, even if you paid me.
Oh, even if they paid.
Even if you paid. Hey, you're going to do a fizz in a little bit?
No, John's away, so we'll go back to normal fizzes next Saturday.
Okay. All right. Well,
but Leo, thanks again so much.
My pleasure. At least we can tell the world.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and of course the rights to all the content are AT&T's.
Yeah. No, once they start, they're going to do the 2 final issues. I'm in both of them already. And then so that they can work out all the subscriptions, they're just going to have new covers and pick topics. But
they're not going to take any new subscriptions, right?
No.
So that kind of tells you that they're not going to, this isn't going to go on for very much time.
And this is, I just renewed my 2 subscriptions because I didn't even trust them to make sure I got issues.
Right.
Because sometimes they would forget. So I kept subscriptions.
What are you going to do with the What the Heck Is It contest? You have to give copies.
You know what? I have so much stuff in the warehouse.
Give them Time magazine.
No, they'll win a sheet of Mad tattoos or a sheet of Mad stamps.
Oh my God, people will be so excited. Are you kidding?
Yeah. People love the game, and so I want to keep it going.
You know what really makes me mad? That Cracked outlasted Mad. Because that was a cheesy copy.
Well, Cracked is only a website.
Yeah, but it's still around.
No, it's still around.
I mean, honestly, Cracked always made me mad because it was such a blatant ripoff, and I would never buy it, ever.
Yeah, no. Bill sued Cracked once.
As he should have.
Not for a penny. He says, I don't want a penny.
Right.
Just stop.
Acknowledgement.
Because they started the fold up.
I know. It was just a poor. It was like Fridays. It was the version. It was like Saturday night. You had Saturday Night Live, and then you had Fridays, which is a crappy ripoff.
Yeah.
Although Fridays did give us Cosmo Kramer, so that was okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But
all right, Dick. Thank you.
All right, buddy. I'll see you next Saturday.
Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.